Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to From My Vanity and welcome to another 3 Looks 1 Palette Plus review of the Juvia's Place Wahala palette. Now this is a limited edition palette. I didn't realize when I said I was going to do 3 looks that it was limited edition or that it was so limited edition. I believe it like went out of stock or like they sold everything they had the first day it launched. And they sound like they weren't planning to restock it, but they put a poll out to see if they're going to restock it. So hopefully they do a couple more restocks before they, let this be limited edition and a thing of the past. But regardless, some people were able to get their hands on this, so I am still going to do this 3 Looks 1 Palette Plus review. But per usual, I'm going to get into the tutorial first, and then we will come back here at the end and discuss my overall thoughts and opinions and review of this Wahala palette. So let's just jump right into the tutorials. Alright, so to start this look off, I am taking my LORAC Behind the Scenes Eyeshadow Primer and my trusty Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer to use as my base for this eyeshadow look. And then I'm going into the Juvia's Place Wahala palette and taking that first shade, Woke, and I am putting that into my crease. This shade is definitely one that I had to build up. I was a little surprised by how light it was, but with some back and forth and really focusing on building it up, maybe I could have switched to a more denser brush. I did get it to transfer and like show up. I just was aiming, at least when I saw it in the pan, I was thinking it would be a little bit brighter, but it does look nicely. And if you like a more lighter wash of color when it comes to that shade, it does apply nicely, and I didn't notice any kind of skipping or weird patching issues when I was blending it out. So it was a nice shade, just lighter than I anticipated it on being. And then next I'm taking the shade BU and I'm going to be packing that on the outer corner. It looks a little on camera like it's a bit patchy as I apply it, and I just kind of went back and forth and built it up until I really didn't notice that anymore. But on camera, I don't know if it's just the lighting, but there's a couple areas that I'm just like, oh, you look a little patchy there, or just not as pigmented and full as it could be. I feel like it, like the other shade, it's just a little bit thinner and lighter than I anticipated it being. I am going to be using the NBA Cosmetics Glitter Primer, and then I'm going to go into that shade Power, and I'm putting that on my lid. And when I first picked this up, the reason I picked it because it looked purple when the palette was sitting on my desk, but actually when I apply it, as you can see, it's very much a green. So that kind of took me by surprise and honestly gave me a little bit of pause because I was like, wait a minute, I thought I was grabbing purple, but it is one of those like duochrome, multichrome, I don't know exactly. There's definitely more than one color that shows through when you put this on your eyes, but it's very pretty, and as you can see, it's a very smooth shade. And since it had that duochrome look to it, I ended up taking this a lot farther into my crease than I had planned. And also too, I wasn't crazy about how light my outer corner. You guys know I like to really smoke it out and deepen it up, but this shade, because that BU is so light and I wasn't really wanting to dip into the brown this day, that was the only thing I could use to really deepen up and, get more dimension on my outer corner and not have it so light and thin. Okay, this is editing Katie again, because I don't know how I missed this little part when I was doing my voiceover before, but I did go in with this shade, which is called Envy, and I was going to top it over part of it, but it didn't really show up. It looked more just like a sparkly topper, so I ended up just kind of blending it into the other color and just leaving it. I didn't really try and make this shadow work because it's definitely more of just like that iridescent topper. From this point, I'm just completing my look with my Vamp stamp and wing liner, and I wanted to have some fun this day, and I decided to try to use this neon purple from JD Glow Cosmetics to go right underneath the line for my wing that I had done with black. But as you can see, I think it shows up better here in the close-ups, but the video that I did of arm swatches earlier, I'll leave it linked up here, but I feel like from far away, it just kind of looks like an extra thick liner. Like the neonness doesn't really come through. Like I said, you can see it in the close-ups, but it just didn't do what I thought it would do, basically. So anyway, after lining my waterline, I'm taking that Busybody. It's like a really vibrant pink, like a neon pink, and I'm putting that on the first half of my lower lash line. And as you can see, it's a really nice and vibrant shade. And it took no work to build up, as you can see. It blended out nicely, so overall, really happy with that shade. And then I went back into BU and just kind of connected it around and blended everything together until I liked how it looked. For my inner corner, I ended up going in with Stand Up. This palette I definitely feel like is very limiting when it comes to shades you can use on your inner corner, because even though Stand Up is a lighter color that works, it's not the most intense pigmented. It's very much more of a softer look overall when you're talking about just shine and whatnot, and it does have a deeper tone to it. So I feel like it didn't do a whole lot of brightening when it comes to the inner corner, at least in my personal opinion, but it got the job done. And then I moved on to my face. And that is the completed look. This is definitely just an easy breezy, very simple look when it comes to like steps and whatnot. I feel like it was just 3 shades on the lid and then an extra pop on the inner corner of the lower lash line for a 4th. But overall, this was very effortless and seamless. If anything, I just wish it had more depth to it, but I feel like I got that look well enough just taking that lid shade a little farther than I had anticipated. You'll have to let me know if you guys can see that duochrome or multichrome-ness in this shadow at all. When I see it from the side, it looks purple, but I really don't know if I could capture it well on camera because this is just one light and it's a very bright light. So let me know what you think. I'm using the Milani eyeshadow primer, and then I'm also using the Conceal and Define Concealer from Makeup Revolution, but this time just in a lighter shade, and I'm going on, which is that kind of corally shade, Unsilent, and I'm going to put that on the inner half of my crease area and just really work to build it up because I want this look to be I want this shade specifically to really pop and show up in this look. And as you can see, I feel like it went on pretty nicely. I did definitely focus on more packing motions to really make sure I place the color down before I blended it in, but this one, like I said, I wanted to just focus on that inner corner of my crease shade, so it wasn't too big of an area. But after that, I'm going to go into that red shade, which is Fire, and as you can see, it definitely shows up. It's just a teensy bit more subdued of a red than I anticipated. I suppose it's not that far off from in the pan, but when I see it in the pan, it just looks like such a vibrant red, and then on my eye it was definitely a lot softer, and I felt like it kept wanting to just look pink when I wanted it to look red, if that makes sense at all. But overall, when I focus on pressing the shadow onto my lid instead of sweeping it, I feel like I got that look. It was just something I noticed that the shadow itself just seemed a little thin and just seemed to not be as intense as I thought it would be. And thinking back to my experiences with really intense, vibrant, very red shadows, this one just didn't wow me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Next up, I'm going into Sis because this is the only really dark kind of brown black shade that you can get in this palette, and I am packing that on the outer corner to add some depth. I was really happy to see that I didn't have any issues with, patchiness when it comes to this shade. I feel like there have been Juvia's Place palettes in the past where when it comes to really deep colors, they can do weird things for me, but this one I think behaved just fine. It was a little bit of a thin formula, and maybe that's just the mattes in this palette in general. I just felt like this wasn't as intense of a brown as it could be. It felt a little thin. So as you can see, I really take my time to press it in and build it up to get the look that I want. But once I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to go on into this shimmer called Unafraid. I am going to be putting glitter, so you're not really going to see this, but for the purposes of this video, I wanted to try it out and just see how it looks. The brush is more of a fluffy brush, so I really should have had a flatter brush and it would have taken a lot less time to pack it on there. But overall, I feel like this shadow is very nice. It's very smooth. When it comes to like the texture of it, I feel like it's definitely it's a shimmer shade, but it's definitely not metallic. And I feel like overall, when it comes to the shimmers in this palette, Wahala, I feel like it's a little not out of character, but I feel like usually Juvia's Place does their shimmers so intensely metallic, they just look almost wet on the skin. And I feel like in general, all of the shimmers that I tried from this palette were definitely more soft. So moving on, I just patted some glitter glue on top of that before going into the glitter clout and very carefully trying to place that onto my eye. I started with a brush, and then as you see, I'm just going to take my finger just because it takes less time. I want to be precise and create a half cut crease, but I'm going to first go in with my finger, really press it all down, and once the majority of the area is filled, then I can take the smaller brush and really go and place it and get the kind of cut crease look. This glitter definitely has some bonder in it. It isn't super duper dry, which I do appreciate as it makes the glitter just easier to apply. When it has some type of smoothness about it, it just makes it glide and press onto your eye a lot better. It's not incredibly smooth though, so I definitely do think that you need a glitter glue when using the shadow or any of the glitters in this palette. And as you're going to see, after I got the look how I wanted, I went back on top with a little bit of the NBA glitter foil liner and I tapped that on top. When we're talking about the wear time for this glitter, I was very impressed that I didn't get a lot of fallout because I totally thought I would be picking up this purple blue glitter off my face all day, but I feel like at the end of the day I had maybe 5 little flakes. So for the most part it really did stay put, which I really did appreciate. The only thing I didn't like is that while it didn't fall and flake off, it definitely did travel up into my crease and break up a little bit on my eyes. It wasn't such a heavy breakup where you could see lines between the glitter and like that kind of separation, but it definitely did travel up into my crease, and then it also just had one spot that it was wearing away. It still looked fine when I flaked away the glitter from my crease because that definitely looked weird, but if I kind of kept the glitter out of my crease, the wear down of the glitter on my lid I didn't think looked bad. This is basically what I'm trying to say. Finishing off the lower lash line, I am just going back into that shade Fire and packing that that on the lower lash line before I just take a bigger brush and kind of buff and blend it all in. And then I also took just a touch of that Cis shade and put it right against my lower lash line just to kind of add that depth that I like to see around the outer edges of my eyes. After mascara, I'm just taking that shade Stand Up and using that as my inner corner highlight once again because that really is the only shade I can use. And then I'm using this Neutrogena, I think it's Moisture Smooth Almond Nude for my lip product of that day. And that is going to be the completed look. This day I did also use the Hourglass highlighter if you're curious. I just forgot to show that. But yeah, that's going to be it. I will say that in this eye look, I wish I had brought my glitter up higher. So later in the day, you're going to see another video in a couple days, in a week or something like that, where I went back in and I brought the cut crease just a teensy bit higher, and I like that a lot better. But for this look, it's just a little too low for my preference. I feel like it looked a little weird when I was doing the close-ups and whatnot. But anyway, but overall I really liked how this looked, and I really hope you guys are able to see that shift from purple to blue. It's absolutely beautiful in person, but it's really hard to show on camera. So and for the last look, I'm once again using my LORAC Behind the Scenes Eyeshadow Primer and Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer as my base before jumping into the first shade, which is Over Sabi, I think is how you say it. And I'm just placing this all into my crease to warm it up. You guys know I love a mustard yellow, so I just think the shade is beautiful and I didn't have any problems with it. It definitely gets my seal of approval. And then going into Cis, I'm using this on the outer corner because, like I said, this is kind of the only deep tone that I could use. And looking at it too, when I'm wanting to get a grungy look, I feel like Over Sabi and Cis are kind of the go-tos. Again, with Cis, I was very happy with how it performed. I didn't really see any issues. It's a bit of a thinner formula, so it takes a little bit more time to build it up and get it to the depth and intensity that I like, but I can get it there. And overall, I really like how the crease and outer corner turned out. For my lid shade, I'm going to put down some glitter primer, and then I'm going into Gossip and putting that on the inner half of the lid. I'm really trying to create a cut crease here, and I was at first going to put this all over the lid, but I decided to keep it to the inner half and just leave a little space in the middle there. As you can see, this shade goes on really beautifully. Again, not intense metallic and giving that wet look to the eye look, but overall it's a very pretty look. It's a very pretty type of shimmer, and then once I have that down, I did go into Rumors next, and I patted that just on the center there and just kind of worked with it with my finger with the brush until I thought both of those meshed and blended into each other really nicely. I always like it when I can combine two colors, two shimmers on the lid. I just feel like it gives a lot of depth and dimension and just a little bit of extra fun to the look. Again, just like with the previous shade, I thought Rumors applied it really nice. If anything, it was a little more intensely, like almost had a sparkle to it, a metallic element to it than the Gossip shade did. So I kind of had to work with it back and forth to get them to blend more seamlessly, because I feel like Rumor was trying to overshadow and, you know, kind of outshine, I guess you could say, Gossip. But after a little bit, I feel like they blended and meshed into each other almost seamlessly, and I really like the final look. And then just to finish out this look, I'm taking my Vamp stamp and this Maybelline liquid liner and creating my wing per usual. Then I'm going in with this Smashbox gel liner and Fishnet for my waterline. And just to use a different shade, I decided to go into that shade Unshook and put that on the inner half of my lower lash line just to kind of see another shade for this look. It's very pretty. It's a very like taupey, purple leaning type of shade. It was really nice. But then to just complete everything, I did dip back into Cis and just smoke that out and connect it to the outer corner and just make sure everything looked nice and seamless. And then I also took a little bit of Over Sabi and just kind of went around the whole entire eye look just to make sure it's very diffused. And then last step, I am taking, once again, Stand Up and putting that on my inner corner. After that, I'm just going to put on some mascara. I didn't show it before, but I already put on my top lashes, the Bad Girl Bang from Benefit. And then I took a little bit of my translucent powder and just made sure that my brow bone was set, and that was all looking very diffused. And then to finish off the look, I'm taking the Butter London Lip Oil Enriched Nutmeg. Oh, and I almost forgot my highlighter. I'm taking this Juvia's Place, the Tribe highlighter, and topping that off on the top of my cheekbones, and that is the completed look. This third and final look easily is my favorite, but I definitely think it's because it's the grungiest and it's the most me-ish. But overall, I just feel like it was a lot more effortless and fun to do. I could really see the color story when I was looking at this palette wanting to get this. I feel like it was a lot easier to get this, whereas the other two looks, I was kind of hemming and hawing and thinking a lot longer when I was staring at the palette before starting my look to try to figure out what I wanted to do. But it could also be just because I enjoy these type of grungy looks, and maybe that's why I see it more easily. But anyway, whatever the case is, this is definitely hands down my favorite look from the palette. there you have it. Those are the 3 looks that I created with this palette. I actually created 4, but I only picked 3 for this look. This look is the 3rd and final one that I did, but I am not gonna lie, after the tutorial a couple hours ago, I went and grabbed the Kristen Leigh Cosmetics Glimmer Gels in the shade Typical and put it on my inner corner because that shade I used in here, Stand Up, was really the only kind of, for me personally, the only type of inner corner highlight shade that I would want to use, and it just didn't really do it for me. It was definitely more of a subdued kind of shimmer, so I stuck that on the inside, but besides that, this look is still the same, and I really hope I'm not washed out. I'm trying to get better at making my videos brighter without washing myself out. We'll see how this video goes in editing. Anyway, let's get into my review of this. As you guys heard throughout the tutorial, I kind of gave you guys my thoughts and opinions on each of the shadows that I used. So just at the end here, I just want to kind of give an overall thoughts and opinions on this palette. Now, because it's limited edition, I don't really want to, you know, focus too much on if I would recommend it or not, because you can't really get it, especially if they only do a couple more restocks. I imagine not a lot of people will get it. Do I think you're missing out if you don't get this palette? If you're not a collector, no, I don't think you're missing out too much. When I first saw this, I honestly wasn't planning to pick it up. The only reason I'm sharing it on my YouTube channel is because I did receive it as PR. But the thing that kind of stumped me the most with this palette is I just felt it was a little, not that that's unusual for Juvia's Place, but it's a little chaotic when it comes to the color story for me personally and what I like to do. Oh, I didn't even say in the beginning, I have done arm swatches. I did a little swatch party of this palette. So if you want to see that, I'll leave it linked down in the description box. I should have said that in the beginning. Overall, it's really nice. Just for me personally, in my creative outlets, I felt like I was a little stuck. Like every time I went to go and create a look, I was just like, I didn't have a lot of vision and I didn't have a lot of ideas, and I should say a lot of ideas that involved a lot of creativity. I feel like you could easily go, oh, I'm going to put this in the crease, this in the outer corner, this on the lid, one and done. You can go this in the outer corner, this in the crease, this on the lid, one and done. But when I'm talking about like trying to use color, trying to mix and match different colors and get really pretty ombres of the different colors in your crease, on your eyelid, that kind of thing, that's where I felt a little stuck. Overall, I feel like this is a nice palette. I feel like if you're someone who likes to grab from several different palettes, you're gonna like it the best because you can kind of, you know, just pick and choose from this to accompany other palettes. But on its own, for me personally, it's just not my favorite Juvia's Place palette. In today's look, this was my favorite look that I created because it's my comfort zone when it comes to the grungy tones, but something I realized after I like walked away and I was looking at my eye makeup, I was like, I feel like I've done this before. And I totally have. I'm gonna have to see if I can find the picture, but I did a look very similar to this with the Lethal Cosmetics Hive collection a year and a half ago. I think the green might have been a little more intense and the bronzy tone was a little different, but overall, I feel like I kind of got the same look. So to keep from like going on and on, what do I think about this palette? I think it's fine. I think it's nice. I don't think it's anything out of this world. I don't think it's anything that if you don't get it, you're going to regret. I definitely think that the shades in here are dupeable. I think if anything that might be a little not as dupeable and more unique is the glitter duochrome, at least in my experience. I haven't tried one. And then also these multichromes, duochromes, whatever they are. These shades are very unique. Now, are they impossible to get outside of a Juvia's Place palette? In the mainstream, yeah, maybe. But in the indie brand, I feel like a lot of brands have either these duochrome, multichrome type of shadows that you can get. Some are very expensive, but I feel like there are other brands, especially when it comes to duochromes, they're very affordable. So I definitely don't think there's anything that you have to be worried if you didn't grab this, which is what I want to emphasize in this review. If you didn't get this, I don't think, you know, you're going to miss out on something revolutionary or something super unique. I don't know. For me personally, I was just a teensy bit disappointed. I don't want that to come across as being, you know, entirely negative to this palette. I think it just had something to do with the color story combined with my limitations when it comes to inspiration when I look at this palette. I just struggled a little bit, so for me personally, I just feel like there's a lot of other palettes that I have a lot more fun, that I enjoyed a lot more, so that's kind of where my thoughts lie, or kind of sum it up with that. And lastly, I just want to mention the price. It's $36. Like I said, it's limited edition, it's already sold out, so I don't even know if this is like really applicable, but I feel like that's a little pricey for what I find in this palette. I don't know. I feel like, I guess if you can get it on sale, and if they're running a sale, but that's the hard thing because this is so limited. I don't even know if they're bringing it back, but if you can get it on sale and at a discount, like with, you know, Angelica's discount code, then maybe it's a little more like, okay, I can see that being a good price, but at almost $40, you know, not almost, it was $36, but at $36, I was just kind of like, ooh, like that's a little more expensive. So since the color story isn't totally for me, I feel like it's very easy for me to see that price and just go, oh yeah, that's a pass. But if this is your color story, maybe it's a little more worth it. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many other palettes that I enjoy the formula more, I enjoy the color story more, that's around the $30, $35 mark. All that to say, I just felt like it was a little steep for what was in here. Is that mean? I don't mean it to be mean, but that's just honestly my thoughts and opinions when it comes to this palette. I feel like I'm very much alone here. I feel like for the most part everyone is enjoying this, and for me, I don't know, there was something about this palette that just didn't jive with me. Anyway, I'm just going to keep going around in circles. I hope you guys found that informative. And like I said, it's not to say that this palette is a total miss and not worth it and just bad quality. Just for me, it was a miss in my personal preference when it comes to my limitations on doing makeup and just the color stories that I enjoy. I just had a hard time creating looks with this palette. But since finishing my looks, I have been scrolling around and looking at everyone else's looks, and they're so beautiful. So it might just be me. It's probably just me, so take that, you know, take my review with a grain of salt, watch a bunch of them to see if you need this, if it even comes back. But for me, if I had to like classify this palette as like bad, good, okay, it would definitely just, you know, it's an okay palette. It was nice. So that's gonna do it for my 3 looks, 1 palette plus review with the new Juvia's Place Wahala palette. I hope you guys found it helpful and informative. As I always say, please don't take my word as like, what is the expression, as Bible? Like, don't take my word as the end all to be all. This is just me and my experience with makeup. I'm definitely very limited when it comes to working with makeup and my artistic abilities and my capabilities, and even my artistic vision. I often struggle putting, you know, colors together and whatnot. So definitely, you know, keep that in mind when you're hearing my review. And I'm kind of bummed that this was a miss because I thought the artwork and just the idea behind this palette was really neat, but it is my honest opinion and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So I hope you guys found it helpful, informative, whatever the case may be. And if you did, please give this video a thumbs up on your way out, as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye guys.